ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with Grace at Wednesday morning at Durian ASEAN. So, Durian ASEAN delivers news from Southeast Asia, and perhaps this morning, let's travel to Vietnam. So what's going on in Vietnam is they received Russian-designed missile boats amid maritime tension, which means they took delivery of 2 missile boats, which was just yesterday and made locally and also to model on the Russian vessels. And this is the latest move by its military to strengthen the maritime defense as tensions was really getting stronger over this South China Sea. So these 2 Terranful class corvettes known as Molnias are equipped with 16 missiles, and automatic weapons are among 6 orders by the Navy, and 2 of which were delivered last year. And these missiles apparently have a range of 130 kilometers. So, the Vietnamese naval defense capabilities have been boosted by Russian hardware, including the state-of-the-art Kilo-class submarines recently equipped with the Russian land attack variant of a club missile. And apparently these missiles are also capable of precision strikes with a range of 300 kilometers. So, which means Vietnam is also looking at strengthening and also improving their maritime security force as well. So according to Deputy Defense Prime Minister Trương Quang Can said, the new boat showed Vietnam could fully master the technology and the techniques of modern military shipbuilding and would also boost its combat power and help protect its maritime sovereignty, which is just like how I mentioned before, how they want to focus more on the maritime strand as well as to protect and also to voice out over the South China Sea. And apparently, let's just go back to the Russia and Vietnam relations here. Well, they formally let's just go back to perhaps 1950, when the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics established an embassy to North Vietnam, and Russia is principal ally of the Social Republic of Vietnam. So, historically, USSR was the one of the Vietnamese strongest allies, and after the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, friendly relations were established between Vietnam and Russia. So it's not something new that they are collaborating together, or Vietnam is getting help from the Russia when it comes to technology or even the economical part. So, this is something to look at when it comes to the relationship, as well as the other news. We can go to talk about Islamic finance, which looks pretty promising on Asia's infrastructure bandwagon. So, Islamic finance aims to move into infrastructure as governments and bankers planned a new organization to handle deals and also expand efforts to use sukuk for projects in majority, which this Islamic finance, the news was brought up quite a while ago, and especially improving the infrastructure area. And then the asset-backed nature of this Islamic finance is also should, in theory, make it a deal to build highway networks and a port and other big project. And estimated around $800 million worth of infrastructure financing will be needed each year in Asia over the next decades. So, but when it comes to ASEAN region itself, you think about the infrastructure, it's not as developed as other nations, if you will compare to European countries, even USA, and even the other part of Asian countries such as South Korea and Japan. So the infrastructure is still a bit far behind, but it's catching up. So the technical and legal and political issues when it comes to ASEAN region, it is something that still needs to be improved and discussed, and perhaps it may look very complicated. So these governments are now trying to break these rules. So Indonesia and then Turkey, which is not a part of ASEAN, they're based Islamic Development Bank. They said last month that they plan to launch the Islamic Infrastructure Bank with Indonesia and Turkey pledging at least $300 million each. So in that way, they can also build this first, then they can ask others to join. So Indonesia will be the initiator to build up this Islamic Infrastructure Bank. And this IDB is apparently in talks with Chinese officials to study the potential use of Islamic finance by Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which the Beijing plans to establish. This AIIB has been brought up also a few weeks ago, and then a lot of countries are they have apparently shown their interest in joining, because this is also to focus infrastructure areas in Asian regions. But however, there's another one more in details, perhaps in Islamic Infrastructure Bank. So since ASEAN is full of a lot of religions, and having perhaps Islamic Finance Bank will help out to build a relationship and have come up with the politics and regulations and policies to this community to help out. And this alliance between AIIB and IDB could be a very powerful one, in fact, because they dealt in which the Chinese-backed bank was involved, and it might seem to have a Chinese sort of a foreign exchange reserves and a political clout behind them. And they draw fresh investors to Islamic finance. And one of the senior vice president of Islamic markets, whose name is Muhammad Effendi Abdullah, he mentioned that increasing insurance of the longer dated sukuk was helping to set pricing benchmarks for the future infrastructure deals, which sounds very promising. And at the same time, the sukuk is also to play the bigger role in infrastructure, and then their arrangers will need to become comfortable working with longer tenors as well. If you just talk about the last year performance, the last year, $114 billion of sukuk were issued globally, but only $24.5 billion had tenors of 10 years or more, according to Zawab. And these are the areas that definitely ASEAN needs to look at. But then apparently now the Islamic Infrastructure Bank will be established soon between Indonesia and Turkey, starting from there. So we will come back after this short break. Perhaps we'll deliver more news from Southeast Asia. So stay tuned.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, welcome back to Drian ASEAN. You're still with Grace.
And this is Gowri.
And we deliver news from Southeast Asia. And this time, let's stick to ASEAN here. Well, we'll talk about the recent tragedy that has been happening for a long time. And that also brought up a lot of people's concerns over this issue, which is regarding this human rights in the human trafficking. So, sticking to ASEAN, which we talked about perhaps the last week, that there will be a mini ASEAN summit regarding this human trafficking, and that will hopefully happen quite soon. But here, the Southeast Asia, they want to improve the investors that it is truly viable economic group, and it also needs to demonstrate that it can find a way for Myanmar, especially Myanmar's Rohingyas, to go home.
So the issue here, one of the main concern for ASEAN right now is that international investors are starting to lose hope in ASEAN especially looking at how incompetent we are when it comes to handling human rights issues. And because of that, a lot of them are either pulling out or they're starting to look at other parts of the world. And that's very, very dangerous because this is the year of AEC, when we are trying to build an economic community. We are trying to get in more investors, trying to pump in more funds. So if we project such a bad reputation in the eyes of the world, that will not be good for ASEAN in the long run, because we need the investors to come in and to invest, and we need the funds to fund all the infrastructure and all the other projects that we have here, which is a lot.
My question here is, why is ASEAN always a bit late when it comes to like really major issues? And that's definitely regarding the ASEAN. It involves the ASEAN. Like, for example, when we had the people who were floating at sea, just like that for more than 2 months, where was ASEAN? It was just the other countries who expressed their concerns first. Then the ASEAN was like, oh yes, this is pretty serious. Let's have ASEAN summit. Well, I'm not being sarcastic here, but it's just how ASEAN is a bit step back when it comes to certain issues, to voice out and to work as a team or as a whole community there. Because this issue would have been the greatest, really good opportunity for ASEAN to step up and also to show a different image to other parts of the world.
I think the way ASEAN has established its reputation right now is when something happens, we tend to be so how do I say it, inactive and so passive about it, and we think that, okay, this is not really a big deal, we don't have to deal with this. And the moment we get a wake-up call is when the issue actually explodes right in our faces. Like you were saying, all this while the Rohingya was a problem, but it was never really addressed until there was a crackdown in Thailand, and this whole issue with the refugees going on the boat and just staying there for days or for weeks. And that was when the whole region started panicking and, oh yeah, okay, now we have to do something about this. And it also doesn't help that Myanmar still does not want to use the term Rohingya and still say that, no, these people, there's no Rohingya in Myanmar. There are only Bangladeshi immigrants who came a few generations ago, and we're calling them Bengalis, whether they like it or not. And that is also sort of like providing a huge stumbling block for ASEAN to even do something about it. And in this case specifically for the Rohingya issue, I think it has to start with Myanmar. As long as they are in denial, saying that the Rohingyas do not belong here and they have no reason to come back here, this issue is really not gonna go anywhere.
Well, since Myanmar is in denial, perhaps that's why ASEAN needs to step forward to make sure that Myanmar is part of this. Because after all, those Rohingyas, like you mentioned, they're all from Myanmar. And think about it, when it comes to laboring work, we Southeast Asia are heavily depending on the cheap labor, and particularly the weather countries like Singapore, Malaysia, and even Indonesia, where the migrants from the poorer nations perform manual labor that pays too little to attract locals. And these workers partially, they're also Rohingya and Bangladeshis as well. So not only the making the policies or regulations to protect their rights, but also to really look at the root of this whole cause, and then make sure that we don't make the advantage, or we don't take the advantage of them from the first place. Because when these issues are raised and when these issues are highlighted, it's not only about us anymore. It's also the neighboring countries, and furthermore, it affects the relations between the ASEAN and the other countries, perhaps USA and also Europe. So going to Europe, the relationship between Europe and ASEAN, well, Obama, he calls on the Myanmar to end the discrimination against the Rohingya, which he also showed his expression, the concerns over this Rohingya community. But however, whether he calls to end this discrimination or not, it's also up to the nation, which is Myanmar, to really willingly to come up with a solution or not.
And I think you're absolutely right. When you said the more Myanmar doesn't want to recognize the term Rohingya, that's when ASEAN should step up and sort of, how do I say it, force them to be, or, because we need to come up with a solution here. But what's happening right now is the more Myanmar doesn't want to use it, the more ASEAN is like, oh, okay, fine, we don't want to jeopardize our relationship with Myanmar, because ASEAN is about all the 10 countries, and we want all the 10 countries to get along, and they're probably looking at the bigger picture there. But the fact remains that this is like the pressing issue right now, and whether Myanmar likes it or not, ASEAN should be the one to step up and to also sort of make Myanmar see the reality out there, how they're actually suffering. And especially when you're a nation and you claim to be a Buddhist majority, you don't want to give this kind of reputation in the eyes of the world. And also, you were saying about how Obama has stepped up and expressed his dissatisfaction. And it seems that the thing with Obama is he is more supportive towards Aung San Suu Kyi, who is the opposition leader, and he is trying to still use that approach to get Aung San Suu Kyi to do something, especially in the upcoming elections somewhere in November.
Right.
And I think at the rate that this is going, I don't know how they're going to handle their elections, how the people are going to react. But interestingly, when I was watching a video that day, when there were some journalists interviewing the people in Myanmar, they were very strong-headed. They actually just looked into the camera and said, what Rohingya? There's no Rohingya here. This country belongs to us. And I think that sort of also puts a lot of pressure on the government on how the people are going to react if they finally do acknowledge this Rohingya and possibly even take them back. How will the people of Myanmar react to that?
Exactly. And also, Obama did make a very emotional statement where he said, I think if I were a Rohingya, I would want to stay where I was born. But I want to make sure that my government was protecting me and that people were treating me fairly, which is very true coming up from the human rights perspectives. But then the government has been ignoring this community for the longest time. And he also said, and that's why it is so important, I think, as part of the democratic transition, to take very seriously this issue of how the Rohingya are treated, which he is also very well aware of the community and also how this community are or have not been treated very well in their own countries. And furthermore, they were treated really bad. Either they have to stay in the camp or they have to be persecuted, which is very, very unfair. So this very powerful Buddhist nationalist campaign for the tighter restrictions on all Myanmar's Muslim population has deepened the hostility to the Rohingya community.
And they've not been met with any response so far from any political leaders, including Aung San Suu Kyi, who everyone is expecting. There's been so much criticism on her silence as well. And I think it's interesting what the quote you mentioned from President Obama. I think not only a Rohingya, no matter who you are, wherever you are born, you would want to stay there, and the government should protect you even if you are in the minority community. If you're born in that country and you feel like you're a part of that country, you have every right to be there and to be treated as a rightful citizen.
So we'll take another short break, and when we come back, perhaps we'll touch on more on the economic side in Southeast Asia. So stay tuned.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello, you're with Grace.
Hi, this is Gowri.
And then we are all at ASEAN Dailies, where we deliver news from Southeast Asia. So let's continue the news on perhaps touching on the economic and the business side, where we'll come back to our own nation, Malaysia, which is also a pretty hot topic regarding 1MDB. And the question here is going to Dr. Mahathir.
And it seems that Dr. Mahathir is not happy with what our current Prime Minister is doing. And of course, he has been voicing out his opinion, not just today, but since a couple of weeks ago. Even when there were calls for Najib to step down, he said, yes, Najib should step down.
Right.
And it's not very usual or very common for you to see a former prime minister saying this about another prime minister, but I guess in this case, for Dr. M, he feels like Najib has crossed the line with 1MDB, because we're talking about $42 billion that just went missing.
Right.
There's no proper explanation provided for that, and because of that, Dr. M also said that he just cannot accept how Najib is handling things right now. And it's also interesting because he said he worked very hard to make Najib prime minister, and he even wrote letters to Abdullah, who was in the office just before Najib. And he said, I expected that when Najib took over, he would perform at least like his father, because his father was a great man. But then I found out that he was doing funny things. I think that this coming from a former prime minister actually carries a lot of weight. I mean, of course, the people have been protesting, saying that, oh, Najib is doing something funny with his wife. But when the people say it, of course, as valid as it is, sometimes they don't take it as seriously because we're not exactly in power. But for Tun M to actually say that Najib is doing funny things, I think this is something to be taken quite seriously.
Well, I have a pretty much opposite opinion from you, Gowri, at this point, because when it comes to government ruling or the whole country, becoming a whole country leader here, perhaps the system is different. The method of the running the country is different from one to the other. And of course, Dr. Mahathir was in the political system for a long time, and I mean, so has Najib as well. However, does it still hold the power to tell what to do in this nation? Perhaps it is acceptable, but this always will divide the whole nation into two opinions or even more by giving the opposite opinions and just attack one person verbally and also on public even more. Because after all, the Prime Minister is still the image and also the face of the nation. And furthermore, he's the leader of Malaysia, where when he is just bashed by the previous former Prime Minister, it is also really not good when it comes to image-wise to worldwide. And of course, he just wanted to express his concern over certain issues, and one of them is 1MDB. However, isn't it his own sort of plan or agenda to still show public that he has the power in this country?
I think I will also disagree with you, because although Najib has been in the office, it's only been a few years, whereas Dr. M has been in the office for at least 22 years. So I think that gives him the credibility to come forward and criticize Najib's administration, because of course, Tun M is way a lot more senior than him, and he has seen the great the different Malaysia that it was back then under his regime and even before that. So for him to see the country heading in a different direction after he passed on the torch, I think he has the right to be disappointed, and he can be vocal and openly criticize the current Prime Minister if he feels like all his efforts are just going down the drain when he worked really hard. Of course, that is up for debate as well, how exactly he moved Malaysia forward. He had his own policies and everything, but maybe what he was looking for was somebody to carry on that legacy and make Malaysia better and not make us a laughing stock in the global arena.
You have the points there, but when it comes to these certain issues, 1MDB, he has been very vocal on the public. But my question is, what has been done? After he made the comments on the public, what has Najib done to make it better? I don't see any changes even after Dr. Mahathir was very vocal about this. So perhaps all the ministers, they want to attend the special briefing on the 1MDB because they are also very worried when it comes to the money, which is a lot. We're talking about a huge amount. So these cabinet ministers, they attend a special briefing session, which was just yesterday, and that they sort of believed to be on the 1MDB issues. And it was a closed door session, and there were at least 11 ministers seen at the venue.
And it seems that this, based on the report, this was quite a last-minute briefing session, which happened on Tuesday night, which was just last night, actually. And although there were 11 ministers present, there were a lot of other key ministers who were not present as well, including our Deputy Prime Minister, Muhyiddin Yassin, who was away at the time. And even Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak, who was at a function in the same hotel, did not attend the briefing. So you can see how they're handling the whole issue right here. And I think even after the briefing happened, maybe because it was a briefing, not much details were divulged in the first place during the whole session, and people are still waiting. Like you were just saying, you were absolutely right. There's been a lot of criticism, even from Tun M himself, but even then, nothing is being done about it. They are just I don't know, in Malay you would say shock sendiri. I don't know if you know what that means, but yeah, they just keep doing what they're doing, and they just couldn't be bothered about what the people are saying, what the comments, the criticisms from the opposition party are saying. They are just sort of saying that we're still on the right track and we're still doing this and you just need to trust us.
I mean, this is it. Even after they had all these sessions or meetings, I mean, all those the comments were already released. This person is missing, this minister is gone away. So,
and they even have a few names already on who is linked
so
to
more
this
questions
scandal.
will be raised from here. And what's the point of having this session? I mean, having this session, briefing session on 1NDP is very important, and they should have more and more sessions to come up with the solutions.
And with all the ministers, not just 11.
Exactly.
And I think Dr. Mahathir made a very interesting, funny point. Because we know that one of the person associated with 1MDB is Joe Low.
Right.
And Dr. Mahathir said whether it's Joe High or Joe Low, he doesn't care.
Right.
He just wants the people responsible to take accountability for the entire issue, because from the start it's just full of errors and the whole funds was mismanaged so badly, and we really need to do something about this.
Yes. So let's see how Malaysian government will come up with something to overcome this issue, because this is we're talking about this huge amount of money, I tell you again and again. Well, let's travel to Japan this time. So the Japan Pension Service, which is also called JPS, announced that the personal information of pension subscribers, including their names and the basic pension numbers, has been leaked in about 1.25 million cases after staff computers came under cyber attack, which is very dangerous. Cyber attack is not new when it also comes to Southeast Asia. And the pension, people want to go for holiday, and then they just put in their details, and then all this personal information have been leaked, which is very dangerous.
I think the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this news is, wait, Japan's system got hacked?
Well, that's also a good question. Yeah.
One of the best systems in the world, but of course you were saying when it comes to cyber attack, you can never predict at any given time who is gonna hack who, which country from which country, because the hackers are pretty much everywhere, just waiting for the right time to attack. Right. And it's also a bit tragic that they attacked the pension service, because I think a pension is something that people have been saving up the entire life for, like probably 40, 50 years of working, and it's like all their hard work just gone in just a click of the mouse by some IT expert somewhere. And of course, JPS, the Japan Pension Service, will launch an investigation and start probing to see who are the ones involved in this, and to see if there was any unauthorized access in their system.
And at the same time, they also need to announce to public that how we can also identify which one is, access to unauthorized access, or which websites we need to go to just to check our informations are safe. So we need sort of that secure access to the website or any internet channels when it comes to having or giving our names and our information. So we'll take another break, and when we'll come back, perhaps let's touch on the more lighter side of ASEAN.
Durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, welcome back to Durian ASEAN. You're with Grace.
Hi, this is Gowri.
So we're still continuing our session at Durian ASEAN Daily, and we have very exciting news which just launched yesterday. Started from yesterday, which is we've been reporting and also did some commentary on this, which is GOASEAN.
Yay!
Yes.
Applause!
Yeah, we need to
Finally.
play the drum roll. Woo!
So, GOASEAN is actually launched by Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak as the first satellite TV travel channel dedicated to showcasing the whole region. And this was also actually Najib's idea as a part of Malaysia's aim as ASEAN chairman to promote the country and also, of course, other countries in the region. So it's more attractive to investors, and they know what they can expect when they come here.
And not only that, they will be featuring a lot parts when it comes to Southeast Asia, because Southeast Asia is rich in many things, not only food, but also when it comes to culture, heritage, religion, even the travel places are really, really beautiful. So that this will be a part or a way to, eye opener to see whole this beauty in Southeast Asia. So this was announced during ASEAN Summit, which was in April, and this is the brainchild of Najib, and is also part of the Malaysia's aim as chairman of the regional body this year to promote people-centered ASEAN. So hope that a lot of people can watch this travel channel, because this heavily focus on Southeast Asia.
I think it's great to have just one channel for ASEAN itself. And whoever that wants to go to any of the 10 countries can just tune into the channel and they will learn about it. And just like how you can also listen to Durian ASEAN if you want to know all the news about whatever that's happening in the region.
Right. Well, at the same time, there's also a bit of negative issues regarding this FMFA, the concert, which is supposed to be held in Kuala Lumpur, but the one before in 2014, there were a lot of accidents that happened, isn't it, Gowri?
You're right, and of course there were about 6 people who died at FMFA last year, and the police said that it was because of drug abuse, and because of that the whole concert was cancelled, and I think after that Thirst was also cancelled in Kuala Lumpur, just a few hours I think before the event, because somebody made a complaint the night before. And recently, the report came out, the post-mortem from a doctor in University Malaya, who said that the 6 people died because of heat stroke and not because of drug abuse. And they didn't deny the fact that there were some traces of drugs found in at least 2 or 3 of them, but that was not the primary cause of death in all of them. And I think the whole reason for closing down or just shutting out FMFA was actually a huge mistake. But of course, some people are also saying that, it couldn't have just been the heat stroke. It must be the drugs or something else. I think it could be a combination of factors. I mean, I've never been to a rave before, but I've seen the atmosphere where everything is so packed. I think it's very easy for someone to just not be able to breathe, considering the congestion, the dehydration. Not everyone can handle that, and maybe these people were not aware that their body or their system is sensitive to things like this.
So all the festival organizers need to educate all this public properly when you are coming to a rave or any sort of the concert. These are the things that you need to expect. Bring the bottle of water, or bring the towel or anything to, make sure you're hydrated throughout the concert. At the same time, people like to complain, and they also need to be cautious when it comes to situation like that. And then heat stroke, it's not new. We just talked about the heat wave in India and Malaysia. We cannot ignore because we are tropical countries.
It is a very hot country in Malaysia.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even getting hotter, to be honest. So these are the things that the both sides need to take into consideration.
And I think there was a press release on Facebook as well where the organizer Lifescape Asia came forward to say that they were not actually updated during the investigation.
Right.
They requested for reports from the police, but the police just went up to them and said, well, it was drug abuse. Like, that's it. And they were not given a proper copy of the report. They were not being updated as the postmortem was happening. So what's the real issue here is that when something like this happens, the organizers especially want to know the truth.
Of course.
And they want to know step by step, what's happening, every detail of it. And you cannot keep the organizers in the dark and then finish whatever post-mortem and then just say, well, it was drug abuse, so we're canceling this event. And there was no concrete proof given as well. And the 6 people who died, I mean, imagine their family members who thought that, oh, my kids were abusing the drugs. And, when it was actually just heat stroke. And it was not so much about...
It is very upsetting, and it will bring a lot more anger among friends and families who just had to see other friends getting hurt because of other factors. So we'll see how the government and also the organizer will handle from here, because it looks like it wasn't only the drug that was involved in a certain concert. And moving on to very, very, very viral post, which is about the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender campaigns. Well, a lot of things were just showing on, especially on Facebook and Twitters. So what is this, the Gowri?
Well, actually, this is about Bruce Banner,
right?
Who is the father of the Kardashians, who he recently had a sex change and he became Caitlyn Jenner. So that caused a huge reaction, very mixed reaction actually, all over Twitter, all over Facebook. And of course the reactions were mixed. Some said that it was a publicity stunt, and some were actually glad that after 60-something years, he finally managed to be who he or she really is.
And this is we're talking about transsexual, and also how they have to sort of struggle throughout the years since the day they find out about themselves. And I mean, Jenner.
Yeah, I mean,
now Miss Jenner, now she had to struggle a lot for somebody he's not actually.
And even for any transsexual itself, well, maybe for you and me it's very easy because we just know that we are ladies and this is who we are and this is how we feel. But what about that moment you realize that you're not actually who people think you are, who people want you to be, and that whole internal struggle, years and years of confusion, I'm sure it causes a lot of mental torture as well. So, and also in this case where he could have actually lost his daughters if he had done this much earlier. And so finally he did it, and hopefully he can be sort of a role model for other people who are confused about their identity and who are too scared to be themselves.
Exactly. So, well, that's it for our ASEAN Dailies today. Do look for us at our website, which is at durianasean.com, and we also have 4 channels: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, and your feedbacks are welcome.
And as always, listen to us on durianasean.com. If you are on the move, just download the TuneIn app on your smartphone and look for Durian ASEAN. So we'll be back shortly for our special interview with Brian Gomez, who has been around in the local music industry for a while, and we'll be talking to him.